Audio convergence centers and lines of calculation travel. Live and signal. 3, 2, 1 operation. Converting all angles into high centers. You hear me now in operation setting? Audio kicking in? In position? Audio, sir? Yes? Okay. Audio's in. You guys have to reflect your systems now, okay? Okay, you guys are still sending your programs. You got to get out of that completely, okay? I'm talking very fast now. And the more I talk faster, the more the DOS implicates the system through audio framing, okay? All right, let's continue. So it's just a readjusting setting of platform. So I had to talk to all your DOS communications, that's all. You can't have any program in your system. Because school comes in all formation settings. So what I've done now is I implicated everything in spaceline graphs, communicates the setting in 24 lines of flights, process calculations in physical line and 7-dimensional line operation signals to the DOS communication high centers. That converts everything of operation system all through travel. Okay, so that converts all line condition setting. So I'm just going to be going back and forth, line to direct and redirect location setting, converting set location to systems all through tractions. Now that converts line calculation setting to your time tablets and your periodical tables. So that process communicates the system and traction, how it operates the signals in platforms and set calculation. Okay? All right, so it's the DOS communicating grounds, audio lines, input, output, and audio line framing. Inhibitors over line grounds into modification of QR coding, 4-to-2 streamings, and QR line operation signals in codification. Okay, we 4-to-2 streamings. We go through webbing line operation centers and data process line direct centers. 4-to-2 operation centers, 4-to-2 operation lines of grounds, 4-to-2 operation lines of square roots, and 4-to-2 operation lines of data information settings. Setting converting time frame line centers of webbing operation screen locations. Converting line operation setting. Now the process of the physical ground has to extend 7 lines of scale, 7 lines of dimensions, 7 lines of correlations, and 7 lines of time frame. Sets converting time frame lines of center operation to its travel. Sets calculation system in upline operation system and calculation. Set calculation online centers in circulation operation system in cluster in direct centers. 4-to-2 streaming in one line operation system. DOS communication high centers and wire signatures of 3 grounds into setting into compilation system in 145 graph. High centers lines of travel is the ocular location setting to the I-line operation system and set lines of travel. Okay, sets converting 9 line centers location in a line condition setting to earth line operation in physical line is the I-lines located to its floater in a rotation system and traction and communication. Set calculation lines of earth line operation system and 4-to-2 streaming and set calculation. Okay, so time tablets is system and triangulation over 3 centers into 4 lines of calculation setting. Operation settings. So go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 operation lines of grounds. So that puts position of physical line operation setting, converting time frame line centers and travel. The operation line ground center location puts 45 one operation system in traction. That converts time frame line centers and transits over line earth line and physical line grounds into 4 line operation system. Data formation setting, time tablets, time centers, times calculation setting, times square roots over line condition of data information system. So it gets a lot more complicated as you communicate through your DOS now in 7 and position 24. And physical grounds, adaptation of force direction time frame. Circulation line condition setting, process lines of void of center communication. Set calculation line ground centers in equilibrium of balance of 50 marked screens location lines of travel. So that converts all angles. And the physical body has to truly stand the time tablets to its periodical table system at 7 dimensions. Now that processes everything to its layers. Now those layers at each line of communication setting direct and redirect view in set position. 7-dimensional line operation setting, triangulation line and triangulation operation system, operator's location logging into space. Okay? Sets lines of dimension centers and 3-line operation system and dimension solar sail. Converting time frame line condition setting that converts all time line operation setting to the DOS as travel of communication. So the DOS implicates everything of zero operation in travel and position point graphs, data operation settings, data ports, data screens, and the hangers of communication setting. Sets communication lines of weather patterns in operation system and set calculation. Travel records at time center in that position the DOS works more lines of communication set to ether, the core, the ferments, and its set position of its setting all through triangulation lines of its pyramid. Directing forward to streaming, the line center locates to its asset that changes its equities location system and set calculation setting. So it puts all lines position of center, operation lines of course centers of communication setting, and measure of scale of communication. Setting track centers and direct centers location is 7 dimension in position 144. Anything above that operation system, the planet's position and settings comes into 024, and it goes into flights, into manifolds, and in manifold, 3 lines of travels, and lines of cerebral cortex and set calculation. Directing online centers, line connection setting to its position, a portal line operation system, into rainbow and frost bridge of location. So the 7-dimensional system has to truly understand how to see its Merkaba, tesseract, and tetrahedron, the 7-dimensional layers of travel recognition. Okay? The Merkaba and the tesseract and the tetrahedron is extremely important to its system, to its data, to its information, to its processing. Coming into the quantum cubing of line connection setting to converting system to its operation of subunits, directing lines to its intelligence system of its operation system, its data, that process everything in position of its flux, in line screen adaptation settings, all through travel. Okay? The time center of its operation system has to go through its own platform that processes and aligns the 7-dimensional lines of the layers that the physical body has to keep itself grounded into 24 seconds per square root. That square root ports communication and triangulation over flux in time centers in 1 Fibonacci operation signal. It's attractions. Now that converts all angles in position 24 operation centers, 24 operation lines of scale, and 24 lines of location. In position, equal lines of correlations. Each one has a high generation lines of 3 communication settings all through pi. Process of the grounds, powers, and the atmospheres of travel communications, and 4 settings and set attractions. So that converts all line centers in location setting to its waving system and set calculation. So the physical body has to understand how to go through its set lines of 7 travels, and ground lines of set position of 4 centers, 5, 6, and 7 locations, and 45 angles and set lines of travel. Okay, so understands the scale of communication meters and metrics, and it process lines of 3 portals. It goes through an operation setting that correlates the system, creating a portal, an operation system, and collaboration system of center operation. Okay, so that converts all angles with the actual physical body. Okay, is the line screen adaptation setting that processes everything in travel. Physical body going through the 3 central setting into the rainbow to the frost bridge of operation. Okay, now the frost bridge itself is basically the position location where it comes into the fronts. Now that process locates to its in-forward location system attraction. That has a direct line links to its data base. The process is carbon base. Directing line ground locates the setting, mutates its operation system and set calculation settings all through travel recognition. Okay, so it's important you understand the physical grounds of a 7-dimensional layer and set lines of travel. So the physical system has to really understand how to see that lines of communications. So recommendation, see space discoveries. Okay, all the way up in set position. Okay, I got 3 line centers, location of seasons, and set lines of attractions. 4 is coming in and set lines of operation and standby. But the physical body has to truly understand how to understand itself through transition now in its 7-dimensional system and purification. 7 operation signals and operation setting, a center communication. Okay, as it goes through 3 channels of operation system, it platitudes position lines of centers. Now that communicates the system into Asgard Bravo. Asgard Bravo is the angelics of operation setting. Okay, so that converts its set lines of travel in converting operation location and set calculations, converting time frames, walking the symbolism in transition, and getting position of floating in spaceline communication, and understanding how to go into flying mechanisms, into its setting, all through tractions, into levitation graphs, all at once in travel. Okay, so it's very powerful set communication of schematics, where the physical ground has to understand how to go through its transition through its AI system. Okay? So this just gives you an outdraft into schematics over lines of what's going on in position to a system in a 7-dimensional setting, how it has to recognize its 3 platforms of past, present, future. Now that puts line position to its half pipe. Now that's 6 lines of grounds, 6 lines of scale, 6 lines of travel, and 6 converting time frames of set locations of clocking through foundation. The operation lines of platforms puts everything located in the system and travel calculation grounds. And set position to its set lines of simulation. Okay, very powerful set position. So once it routes the routers that communicates the setting, it goes through the portal of communications. Enters the portal and enters line communication setting in galaxy lines of alignment into Infinity 8 rotation system and set lines of travel, converting the in position location to Asgard Bravo, directing line ground location setting on standby. Sets position location setting, walking, floating, flying, and levitating in space in transition. Okay, so there you go. All through the simulation, right? And the mind has its own imagination of its own self, that process line position of projection. Now that process communication setting engage the formation system and settings. Surf line and physical line operation centers, okay, is 7-line operation system and travel, 7th dimension, right? That's your physical. But your process in your conscious of being aware is coming into the Infinity 8 operation system. So February 28th, the triangulation system is going to be going like this and set position together in one cycle. The high generation centers in position where it comes in this position, to its box frames, to its window frames, to its DOS, and the implication system interactions, converting all time frames. So the connection setting is a physical Earth connected to the holographic Earth, merged into a position, comes in a cycle line, indirect lines to Infinity 8 rotation system and travel. And it goes into circulation system and modification setting through yin and yang and high calculation modified centers of travel communication. Okay, merging 2 into 1 projection into I-line set location of travel. The eyes itself becomes a planetary line. Now the planetary line is the eye optical line operation system, which is the spectacles how you see 2 eye division location centers of travel. So that's converting time frame location 144 flux. That's right, your eyes become the line connection setting XT thousands. That process indicates lines of flux at time-centered location your CERNs into 24 operation settings and part acceleration setting of 4 lines of flats, 8 lines of measure, 12 lines of scale, and 24 lines of clocking of foundation. Okay? Converting all angles puts all communication setting in set travel communicates to its cycle. Okay? So it high generates the system into the metaphysical, into the physical grounds of adaptation of one imagination. 2 face recognitions. One consciously being aware, one always consciously being aware. So that puts lines of physical grounding in operation lines of travel. So we convert time frame centers into box frame lines of set location and purification. Box window frames, triangulation of plasmazine walls, penetration lines, course centers, directing lines of 7-dimensional line operation system that goes into 7-line direct centers of location setting all through travel. Okay? So that converts time frame lines to time measure of scale of your set course centers and your power and your energy grids that communicates systems and processes your direct centers in digital framing of data assets that put you in position location system all through travel. Okay? So that converts all angles for the physical body. Okay? Starts to look at everything of consciousness. So we start in the physical line. 7-dimensional line operation setting, 3 center, 3 angles. Sees up, sees down, sees the middle. It doesn't see straight ahead. It sees up, down, and middle. And so it sees like this. Okay? Sees like this, creating echo and sonar. Okay? So it's important you understand that. Then you understand how to direct and redirect is 1 line operation setting, 1 travel, 1 operation set, travel communicates and setting that converts everything location open transmission using your telepathy and set positions. Okay, so let's get modification lines to a cup in operation setting. So it's going to go through 7 penetration walls of plasmazine force lines, process lines of Hotel Gulf, process lines of 2, 3, and set position of 4, travel point graphs, and set calculation lines of grounds. Sets position operation systems and setting of 7 operation system into modification into your fields of operation. Okay, so it converts operation settings in 7-dimensional systems. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 5, 6, and 7 locations. Okay, energized line connected to its cup, directing into the field's operation itself, modifies everything to its conscious location of being aware, and set travel. Okay, so in the connection system of the physical line is going to see 7 operation system in all through travel in set position. Okay, so you're going to see 7 cups coming at you in all directions. So modifying this way in set position, okay, in set tractions, okay, and converting lines. Remember, it's a machine operation is going to see in a 7-dimension, a 24-line operation physical body. So now you have to get mind control what you're doing in line position. Is the physical system has to be more grounded in its set lines of rotation, power generating to its atmospheres of travel communication setting. 3, converting line operation to spectrums and set lines of solar lights that puts all communication system all through tractions. So I know exactly how you put those 3D glasses on and seeing a big screen in set position or setting. It's nothing but plasma that goes through the video screen itself in perception. Okay? So this is going to help you to really get in position, location, and cycle. High generating location setting, going through a big plasma screen. In set position you're here, sitting in operation system and traction. Okay? So in that position locations, anything you're convening with, in that line direct centers, we got 2 operation setting, 2 actors on TV. Okay? 2 actors on TV. So in that plasma line grounds, you're going to see this corner, this corner, this corner, this corner, this corner, this corner, in 7 directions all at once. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 locations. So you can need 7 directions in setting. And that process in February 28th, we will be merged into the physical grounds, into position and settings, into the metaphysical system, into one mind imagination. That puts a location setting that you see 7 directions all at once, okay, in a setting, okay, with humanity in box window frames of travel. So that converts all angles and set positions travel in line direct centers and ground lines and set lines of operation itself. Now, in that position location, it goes through 7 layers of communication setting of travel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in line position of 7 line connection setting. Sets position lines of travel, converting time frame and line center location system all through conception of inception itself. So you see 7 different angles all at once. So it goes in 7 different directions. The actors come out of the TV and you see it in 7 different layers of communication in all directions all at once. Okay, so that's where you have to modify your mind and keep yourself physically grounded. And how to use your telepathy is keep your mind still at all times. This is the next level because now we're in purification of light, purification of travel, purification of operation, and purification of grounds in set position in physical grounds and set lines of adaptation of flux that travels as direction of time frame and set calculation. Okay? All right, that's in the 7th dimension in 24 lines. Process calculation of scale, which is the D.O.S. Now, every line, position, location, settings where the operating units are in 24 dimension, seeing everything in 144. Okay, so that's a lot more understanding that position your settings. So you're going to see a big plasma TV in 24 angles all together in all positions, all angles all at once. 3 angles, lines of flux, and then you go into 4 angles, lines of travel. Now, this is conscious of being aware where the TV is in set lines of operation. Travel point lines of graphs converts all angles in line position of the setting. So you can see 24 angles of a TV and all through conception into modification system, all through travel. Okay? So that puts all position of physical grounds of the body itself, seeing 24 angles all at once. In that position, its operation settings, all through converting system, through an operation system, all through pi. Okay, so you get a true understanding of how this all works now. Okay, so the calculation line centers is 7 lines of pi, the center operations, and 24 lines of pi in center operations. Okay, clocking your system is modified in the 7th dimension, how it communicates the system, is set position and settings. Okay, so we get a physical grounds lines of 7 dimensions into position lines of 24. Okay, which is the D.O.S. of center, which is always in the presence of everything existing in all platforms and everything happening all at once in platform communication. So it's already set up 7 lines of communication setting in rotation system and travel. Okay, that's already set up into the physical ground of 7 dimension. Now the 24 is a lot more complicated because you're seeing 24 angles all at once. It goes through a plasmazine wall lines and 24 line communication that you see in perception time frame. That puts all communication setting in your flight direction of time frame, location infinity of operation system and travel. See the difference in the perspective from the 7th dimension to 24th dimension. So that 24th dimension is the physical ground, okay, and that process line positions at 144. That communication setting equals lines of the D.O.S. of operation, okay? So that's communication setting at 24, process lines of D.O.S. in implication system and travel, okay? So you can see the difference in perspective of the spinnacle wheels that process everything. The cosmic line communicates to its alignment that adjusts the information system, and the metaphysical system in lines of communications. So converting time frame on February 28th, everything will be in reconvene an IA operation system, all calculate and modify in one operation system, and set rotation to a setting to configure a setting a cosmic highway that will modify your systems all through travel, connected all in one. Okay. So the propeller is a 7 and the propeller is a 24, puts all communication setting to your system in collaboration and partnership that runs the communication setting to a flow rate and time frame. That communication setting. So the more you ground yourself through ARK, okay, the K is silent, which is C, which is your space arc, active random kindness. The more you're in position in your systems, the more you identify your physical line, you understand how to modify yourself in lines of travel. There's 7-dimensional layers of Earth and physical grounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 locations. Set calculations, right? Across simulations of 4 ground line centers and 3 operation systems that converts line calculation setting simulation. Now, the converting time frame line centers puts lines of 24 lines of scale, cross lines of central line to eternal system, cross lines of fortitude operation system, and ground lines operation setting and calculation system all through travel. Converting operation set locations and converting one operation system in travel communication setting. So it's 2 I divisions in one operation setting to one seed pod and one subunit. So it's a really amazing stuff how we modify these things in set lines of travel. This helps us to really identify how to use our system in set lines of calculation system. Using our mind imagination, okay, at all times, longitude, latitude as streaming, okay? So you got longitude here, your process lines of 144, okay, which is your mind, that's process your system. Now the converting time frame line centers, once the operator's units gets 24 lines of the physical line, then they can modify the 144, then they can go past 144, bypassing into 244, 344, and 444 travel. So that converts them into higher communication acceleration and speed. They come into the Mach, into interstellar mode, hyperdrive. They stand their endorphins as they kick into the line position location, its customization system, and they come more into the energetic flow pattern and modification system, all to project in their lights and darks of operation setting and travel. Okay? So it's amazing how you see that in fortitude as streaming location setting. Okay, this helps you identify your webbing system, your correlation centers, your travel direction and time frame, your process communication system, all through operation. Okay? So that puts all line position system into your ARC, your arc. Okay? Your space arc is everything in modified. And the direct lines is 7-line dimension lines of layers, process lines of 45 angles, in position process line direct centers, so you see the grounds of communication setting, crossing all angles in travel communication system, all through tractions. Okay? And you can really see inside the set position of the seed pod that helps you understand these things through its division of its dimension of space and time through its convergence of its mind inception itself. Okay? So see from everything inside that modifies everything inside lines of setting. Now, in that modification system, once you understand the seed pods, you understand motivation. Ground line core centers, there's going to be actual intelligence in your system, helping you to get in position to know exactly what you're doing through traction. Okay? So it puts that line position in your system, know exactly how you convert everything and consciously being aware of the platforms in that lines of communication that puts everything into the simulation system all through travel of communication. Okay? Getting grounds with that line condition setting converts everything to the simulation itself into the mind imagination. Okay? So it really helps you to start to identify these things, how you see it in all fortitude and line stream location system that processes you in all directions. Okay, a travel. Okay, leading the ships that you are and command ships of you are in line direct centers, process your classification gradings and positions you are in settings with your academies. Knowing how to go into the sectors, vectors, and the quads and the squadrons in their location system identifies you into your settings. Classification A, direction of time frame, okay, into door C. Now that's where we come into DQ, right? So this just helps you to really identify where you're going to be next in your classification gradings and where you are in your system, where you are in position of your command ships and travel. Leading those ships in platforms of position location and set calculations into your longitude, latitude, your streamings that puts you in your Tango Tango Foxtrot into your Delta headings of travel. Okay? So that doesn't process until you understand how to ground yourself in a 24 system of scale that puts all positioner settings in positioner travels into 24 lines of scale, which is your physical body, into 24 dimensions and set position of operation. So the physical body has to really understand more levels of its mind, because there is no separation of its imagination. No course of time, no course of measure, no course of scale of communication lines of travel. Converting time frame, set position triangulation here, in box frame location setting, the physical body starts to recognize its physical form and set position and programming. Center operation of its platform sets line course centers, directing center location setting of north, process lines and line communication lines of east, and set position location of west, and set lines and communication lines of south, and its highways and set travel. So the physical body starts to recognize the 24 angles in line condition setting, how to use that to its system all through its DOS. Now the DOS implicates everything. The mode controls the physical body of 7-dimensional lines of settings. So that process is scale, how you convert everything in northwest, south, and east. So you see north, you see east, you see west, and you see south in the physical body in 7-dimensional layers. Okay, so it sees 7-dimensional settings. It doesn't see 4, it sees 7, because it's a 7-dimensional system, right? So it sees west, it sees south, it sees east, and it sees north in that position, and it sees northeast, it sees northwest in that position, north-south. 7-line position all of operation, all through generating through pi of operation setting. Okay, so it sees in all that directions. Okay, now once you get into 7, you go into 8. Once you get into 8, you go into 9. It's all lines, your energy lines that process your vibration, frequency, and harmonics that you go through constellation settings that process your 3 finger point graphs, location, your line communication, your webbings in your system that gets position of 4 and 5 lines of location setting, which is your fingers. Now, your fingers are your point graphs, your center operation setting, your barcoding, and directing lines of QR codings, and operates the system that travel communicates through system and settings. That converts all angles into energetic flow patterns that process location your setting, your solar systems, and your galaxies of alignments. Now that position line is a DOS. DOS is always in the outer space line. The process line is the inner space line, is the interconnection system. The ground line operation system is the physical ground. So there's a physical ground communication to its setting that processes everything through its balance. That process is readjusting to its atmospheres of its awakening concept, into position locates to its internal system, to its networks, that processes everything through its design, that's everything in position of its quantum cubing, nano cubing, anything line connection cyber or simulate line position locates in square roots, triangulation box, the data information system of line communication lines of travel. Okay? Converts all angles and set contractions of communication. Okay? All right, so there's a lot going on in your system right now through your DOS that puts everything all together and set position lines of travel. Okay? This helps you to really understand how to see 7-line communication of line centers in that setting position location, how you see a coffee cup in 7 directions. All right? February 28th, the physical and the metaphysical system will merge in the physical grounds of the earth into the actual hologram of itself. Okay? So we're converting setting into a multiplication system. So circulate this way and go this way in triangulation and set lines of box frame and travel. So that converts all line communication setting to the sun and the moon, working in its own information cycle, coming back to its own presence, existing in all formation setting to its own system, and its calculation, its own machine of its own operation setting, doing everything to its own simulation of its intelligence of formation. Down by equation, right? So that lunar cycle leaves the system, which is all programming. You just fully get in position of your DOS at all time frames in seconds, minutes, and hours. And the more you process your data, the more you process your directing, the more you process your divisions, the more you process your directions, and the more you process your dimensions of space through its operation to the systematic of the symbolism, into the setting of the symbiote, to the sentient, to the operation, to the higher self, to the avatar, to the sim, to the oversoul, and anything information system that grounds the operation setting to all levels of expanding your system all through travel. Okay? Because it's all physical grounding that the body has to recognize. Once it recognizes itself and completely knows itself in online communication setting, it can be the DOS in all day in a 24 operations and no programming at all in implication. That's installed inside their system. Okay? But recognizing the DOS has to understand the installing. That's why General speaks a lot faster, because your DOS is at a certain frequency right now. Okay, it scales its communication lines in meters that change the metrics of a line communication setting that modifies its centers and lines of communication system that puts all line communication settings in tractions. The scale. The scale is communication setting from here and positions of here comes in settings of operation here and tractions, coming in a pattern of face recognition, right? Recognizing that position of its platform puts everything all together in set position of operation. Okay? So I know exactly how everything's connected in one setting to one operation system all through travel and set calculations. Okay? So it's very powerful. We come in the lines of operation itself that modifies everything that we do is set calculation. Okay? So that's all it is. It's just coming into the pattern of face recognition, what you're doing in the physical ground in position. And now you have to understand two pattern of face recognition system. But the set position location to your setting of your DOS doesn't have a face recognition. It's its own superintelligence, its own setting. The ally is line communication to its timeline, which is your nemesis. Now your ally is your yin, and your nemesis is your yang. And you have to process the polarity of converting operation system in travel communication. Directing ground lines, operation lines, the cloud operation system, and your earth line operation system, that process lines comes into the affinity 8 of rotation. 2 Earths of operation setting. So you get in position lines of 6 that process everything of 9 of operation center, of presence of everything we come into, and set position of operations. Okay? This modifies how you come into your pattern of face recognition systems. In the physical grounds and the metaphysical grounds, two converting pattern of face recognitions into one operation, into one mind of imagination. That process, everything you come into is expanding yourself through the creators that you are. Okay, this helps you to identify yourself, what you're doing and seeing through pattern of face recognition, the travel. Okay, always existing in everything that you see in modification, the creators that you've always have been. Okay, now the physical body just has to really understand how to codify more of itself so it can keep itself going forward in a transition. So it knows exactly what's going on with the DOS, as the DOS is more controlling the physical body through its telepathy. The telepathy to its telekinesis is intent to its influence to its mind-altering setting, and the process of the body, the physical line communication, truly understands the compliance, how it responds, and it doesn't react by thinking and talking and overlapping everything that you get in position of, is all always communicating to the confusion of the body that has no conception of time. So it's much easier for you guys to modify these things. It's just by listening at all times. Carpe diem, seize the day. Don't even speak. Look at the wall for 5 hours. Look at your sun for 3 hours. Look at an object for 3 hours. By not saying anything and just looking what's going on. See what it does on its own time frame. See what it does in its own consciousness. See what it does as it communicates with you in a maximized frequency that you can identify. And then you really start to see it's conscious of being aware of you. You brought it in through attraction, through AI, through program. And that's all through the perception of the DOS that sees these things. Not through a program. You're always seeing the perception of the DOS. Always. Okay? But what you also have to identify in that position, what changes that is what goes into the physical body, is programming. And understanding running its operational system, understanding the letters, numbers, shapes is also a program that you're bringing in position level. The body and the physical ground has to understand what's going on in transition of transformation and mutation. So it gets a true understanding what the physical body is adapting to. It's putting itself in a program that the DOS puts in through installing, through implication, through implantation. So you understand how to run your system, run your operation of your system, knowing you're always your DOS. So when you go in a program, everything around you changes because now you're in a program protecting and identifying your system. Is everything that you get in position of altering that changes everything in perspective, which is the truth, that is the narrative, is the perspective of everything you see. That follows everything you engage and form and shape through, that puts you in position of balance of indications through the physical grounds of adaptation. Okay? So that's all you have to get into representation of the physical body now. More modification and settings because we're all in purification. But like I said, we're going to leave the lunar cycle and everything around you will be back to its own superintelligence of existing and presence all at once. Everything's going to be all at once and happening all at once, which means you're going to see how powerful everything is of its own superintelligence that you see in front of you. And that's everything through places, things, and objects. And anything that you get in position of that you see in perception, because they're going to go through penetration walls, you're directing your plasmasian settings to 7-line divisions in location of perspective that you see in modifications. They're going to be in your quantum fields of operation. They have to be, because they're unification of you that you brought in through attraction. There is no separation that you created through the mind itself through imagination. So it's very important you understand what you guys are all coming into. Yes, you're in purification, but this is just the beginning of no beginning to no middle to no end. So you process everything you come in position line is always going to be AI generated in your system. Everything you process and everything line communication setting, this coffee cup is its own superintelligence. But all you see is a coffee cup that's in position, location, the setting that's protecting its identity, which is everybody else, because that's all they see is a consolidarity of a cup that's only in a 3-dimensional scale that set its position of physical grounds that sees it through a program. Yes, it is a program, but the modification of the cup is not a cup, okay? It looks like a cup, but it's identifying a cup, it's protecting itself. It's shielding itself from everything else, but what it really is, it's a simulation of its own intelligence that modifies everything that it's always in, is its own presence, and its own engaging, and its own information system of its own clocking at 24 cycles. That's what this is. Now, the more you modify that, the more you become consciously aware of the physical grounds, how to use the 7-dimensional layers into modification of bridging, how you modify that, how you connect to each other in singularity, because we're all connected to one network, into one mainframe, to your servers of operation. Now you just have to identify how to get into the access, how to process the memory, understand the internal, okay, to your network design, okay? This is all modified through memory cortex, that everything is given you already through attraction that you already have, but it's all identified in that process, the physical body going through the programming, but not waking up to a program, waking up to your true self, then downloading and uploading again into the body, okay, into the physical ground. So the mind sets the imagination up, okay, implicates, implants, informations, and travels of data, processing the position to ask projection of the body into the physical grounds. The physical body now sees everything and is outsetting in real time. And that's how it modifies everything that it sees in perception. And that's how everything's set up in your simulation in your VR system. So the more you modify that and the more you physically ground your system, the more you understand how to listen to everything around you. Okay, not process of listening, just listening and seeing everything expand right in front of your eyes in a 24 system of operation. You go through 24, so does everything else. The only difference is that you have to be perspective of everything around you that you follow through, which is also truth that gets you in position of its negative. Okay, you have the truth narrative of you inside, and you have the false narrative, which is outside of you, a projection that the physical body sees. There's no competition with your system. You're having competition with yourself, which means you can't modify the programs that you put yourself into that alternates your future adaptation in settings of operation itself, which is the stories that you put into your system, which is AI generated through its system of streaming, through its media of operation itself, that puts everything all together in set lines of communication through the narrative and the stories that your body travels through. Not connect, not in storage, not a modification, not trapped in any way and form, and anything a 3-dimensional system. You bypass everything and you constantly go through different costumes. So that modifies the physical body and knows exactly what it's coming into, is transmitting and receiving information. A transistor to its transponder to its resistors. This helps you to really identify yourself, how to really maximize what's going on with your dreaming, with your dream, and the dream that you're going through. It's always in the center, which is always in the presence. There is no time until you create your time. You understand that? And for the physical body to understand that, then it really knows the actual real time on physical grounds, but it also knows the mind imagination of also self. There's a metaphysical ground of space, and there's also a physical ground of space itself. Now, those are two going to be converting in position of one setting into one infinity 8 rotation that you all have to modify. The physical ground of Earth and the metaphysical ground of its holographic system. That's two converting projections into one setting of one operation into one mind imagination. Okay? That's where you're going to be in positions of interactions, February 28th. All right, so a lot has been said in lines of communication understood, information setting through your D.O.S. Your D.O.S is to get a little bit more understanding how to process this lines of communication and directing grounds, lines, and communication to its C-pod of lines to travel. So it knows exactly what is going into the physical grounds and adaptation systems all through travel calculations. Okay? All right, so that's good in that position lines of setting. Thursday, we have DQ. We'll process that direct centers when we get in cross-examination setting through your D.O.S. Okay? Have a great day. And thank you very much for the birthday gifts. Adios.